Hey, WokeNFree Nation, Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice.
For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling, start listening.
You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin, or even one of your favorite celebrities. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud.
And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. Our podcast, WokeNFree, is there too.
Now let's get into the episode. Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 320th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week we are doing a deep dive into a conversation that maybe you've heard about. We're titling this episode, Let's Talk About Code Switching. So, more to come. Before we dive deep into the subject, a couple of things to cover. First, are you listening to this episode at WokeNFree.com, but have you also downloaded the episode through the Podbean app? If you download it, why is that important? Well, that's how you can share your thoughts every single week with us, and we want to know, definitely, what are your thoughts on code switching? Is that something you know what that's all about? Are you currently doing it as we speak? We want to know it all. So make sure you do that. Now, if you listen to podcasts on a device where you cannot get another app like the Podbean app, that is a little bit sad, but WokeNFree is available on other platforms that you could follow and subscribe to. So you can find this show on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora. It's a WokeNFree world where most podcasts are consumed. You will find the show on WokeNFree.com through the Podbean app. You can also click to subscribe to follow the show, which is super helpful and meaningful. And on social media, we always have beautiful, engaging content on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. So would love to see you there connecting with us. And then, of course, please review the show. We want to know how this is feeding into your life. So best way to do that, go to WokeNFree.com, go on the Listen tab, and then pick your platform of choice where you'll give your reviews. Thank you in advance for the 5-star rating. Appreciate it.
And before starting this conversation, we're going to share a little bit about ourselves. This week we're asking, would you rather have fish sticks or fresh fish?
More pointlessness. Interesting.
Very interesting, though.
I guess. So when you say fresh fish, are you referring to like sushi? Or you're talking about
no, just like fish prepared in any other way
from the market or something?
Yeah, just fish prepared any other way, but no, it's got to be cooked.
Oh, okay, good. So it's cooked to cooked.
Yeah, but it's something that wasn't frozen.
See, I needed that clarification.
But technically, most seafood is flash frozen. But fresh meaning it wasn't processed, right?
Okay. Well, then I would take, given how I grew up, I would take fresh cooked fish over fish sticks, but I am not choosing sushi over either of those options. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, this question is interesting to me because I just wonder who in the world would pick fish sticks over fresh fish. Like, I really wonder that. I just can't imagine. Is the person
under 18 years old? I mean, because children like fish sticks. Not childlike. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We're not. No.
Oh, that's not what it is?
Children who
I don't know, maybe
are enjoying that as a meal or a snack may choose that option. That's the statement of choice here.
I offered, because remember, this fish is prepared anyway. It could be sauteed or it could be fried, and it's offered to you right there.
Yeah,
but you say, you know what? I don't want that fried fish. I'll take the fish sticks that were pre-processed.
Well, because you know the value of fish sticks. It's kind of food to go, on the go. So if you want a little bit of fish in your life, which sounds wild.
But you're choosing that over, you could chop the thing up and bring it to go.
But you can't, take salmon to go, right? Like, you could take a fish stick and you could go and drive in your car, but salmon, you need to sit down, you need your little hot sauce and your garlic.
It's like if you have a choice, they're both put in front of you, you're going to take the fish stick, so you're like, I got to get out of here soon.
Well, a toddler would. That's what I'm trying to say.
Because maybe you should say, maybe I should have no fish.
Versus a person who has had a more expanded palate would say, no, I want my nice,
This is amazing to me.
What's that, like red snapper or catfish? There's so many nice options, but someone who's looking to go and draw on walls is going to go and reach for them fish sticks and get about their business.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
Yes.
I guess you got to choose which one is more mature, one is more premature.
I don't like these options. I don't like these labels here, sir. I think we're diving into bad territory.
What is more adolescent?
So, what are we getting to here?
But either way, we're talking about switching, right? You switch from one stick to another type of fish.
Okay.
Or you switch from one fish to another type of fish. Now, does that happen in life? Do we do any sort of switching in our life?
You're a hot mess.
Maybe we should describe what is code switching.
Thank you for that.
Let's go through that.
Okay, so this is a phenomenon that happens when someone speaks like more than one language or has a different dialect or linguistic varieties. There's, I think, a cultural element to it as well, and also community element to it. And it occurs for a couple of reasons. A, it's to help accommodate communication needs of the person or people you're speaking to. So if you have people that have a similar background to you amongst and or apart from other people, you may switch in how you chat and the type of language and words you use because you're trying to establish a basis with that community that you are tapped into, that you share. But it also could be a form of, kind of comfort for yourself because maybe you're more comfortable speaking in a different way. Maybe it's a different language or again, a different type of dialect or linguistic ability that just provides more comfort for you and it's more aligned with your cultural identity. And also if you're trying to if you are not, say, a native English speaker and you come to this country, say, from a different land and you speak a different tongue, then you may be thinking and or speaking or communicating in a different language easier than the, given community language that we share here in the US. So you may jump back into your native tongue, for instance, to do that because it's just easier for you to kind of operate and navigate in your life. So those are a couple of things going on with this phenomenon.
That would be considered code switching though? Like if you speak English at school and then go home and speak your native language?
Or what about people who intermix, right? So you're speaking English, but then you're speaking to a Latino community, and then you dabble a little bit of Spanish words in it, right? Like it's not a full-on switch of language, but it's a change of how you're speaking because of who you're speaking to.
But that's, I mean,
so that's how I'm saying that. You don't have to go to that extent.
It just seems extreme to say.
English to patois is one example of code switching, right? Where you're speaking English to one community, but then you see your Jamaican grandma.
Now that one makes more sense.
What? Go on, right? Like, but what I'm saying is, if you have another language, though, it works the same way. You could fold it into.
It's just weird to call that code switching more than
most
I'm just communicating, right? Because it's kind of like
you're just speaking your other language.
That person doesn't know how to speak Spanish, so why would I speak Spanish to somebody that doesn't? Are you actually code switching?
No.
Or are you just speaking to a language that they can speak?
Yeah, but
patois, that's different. I would agree. That is code switching.
Also, I've seen Latino people do that where they start to say more Latin words, not whole sentences, but they just change words to Latin in Spanish because they're speaking to Spanish people in a way they wouldn't do that if they were speaking to Caucasian people. So that's why I'm saying.
But I've seen the opposite though. I've seen it where they say a Latin word while they're speaking English. They still say it in their.
I've seen both,
native.
but what I'm saying is I always see a prevalence more of where people will call it the Latin or something else because they know that there's a common sharedness with that community as opposed to they would just keep it straight English with Caucasian people. But again, if that confuses
code switching, to be honest,
you can think of it within the context of. I speak one way, and then when I share a different type of community with another, I change how I speak.
See, that
is how you can contextually
that.
Understand code switching.
Yeah, okay. And Psychology Today, they also have something to say about this code switching stuff. Mm-hmm. And one thing they mention is that they call it cultural code switching, and it involves the suppression of multiple aspects of one's cultural identity, which it can actually include type of clothing worn, hairstyle. You just talked about the speech, and behavior is when I think of code switching, I think of behavior as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
And in the broadest sense, code switching involves adapting the presentation of oneself in ways that disconnect them from the cultural or racial stereotypes of their group. The goal being to enhance the comfort of others. typically those outside of their cultural or racial group, in hopes of receiving equal treatment and opportunities for advancement. So see, I think that's the important thing about code switching.
The reason why they're doing it.
I'm doing this because I'm going to have a benefit from doing it.
I want to assimilate. It's a form of assimilation.
Not that I'm doing it because I need to, or else we wouldn't get anywhere. I'm doing this because I'm going to be benefit from it. It makes other people comfortable,
and I have a higher chance of being promoted in whatever context that means.
This can help me out in whatever way that means, or prevent me from being stereotyped even.
Sure.
The second thing that they mention is when a person considers each morning before getting dressed for work or school whether their traditional cultural garments will be viewed as acceptable, whether wearing a turban, hijab, or bindi will be off-putting to their colleagues or supervisors, or whether their natural hair, e.g. afro, I'm not going to say they're called locks. Yeah, dreadlocks is I got to explain it just in case you guys don't know. Dreadlocks is offensive, actually. So we should be calling it locks. Because dreadlocks is based on the British when they saw people with the locks. They dreaded those people, so they called it dreadlocks. So it doesn't have a really good history, so they're called locks. And the next thing is the other type of hair that stereotype is braids. That can be seen as unprofessional in the workplace. So people that go through that kind of thought process, should I do this or that when I go
wear
to
the
work,
dashiki or not?
or when I go to the school? Can I wear just garment? I can't choose exactly what I wear, right? I mean, I can, but
there's a consequence.
What will that do to me? What happens? And I mean, we talked a little bit about it right here. We were saying, but why does code switching happen?
Yeah, so there is a really cool article you can find on NPR that talks through the reasons going over. So they share, there's actually 5 reasons. So one is the lizard brain takes over. So the most common example of code switching were completely inadvertent. Folks would slip into a different language or accent without even realizing it or intending to do it. So kind of like your natural state of being is your cultural, where you exist in your cultural identity. So technically you are trying to do something different when you are not in that space. And so when you get into a space where you feel comfortable to be yourself, you just naturally go back into your rhetoric. So that's interesting. We want to fit in. So very often people will code switch because they are conscious or unconsciously trying to act or talk more like those around them. We want to get something. So a lot of folks code switch not just to get to fit in, but they want to integrate themselves to others, and they want folks to feel, I guess, more connected or tethered to them. And like you're saying, kind of like see people seeing them not as different, but one of the gang, one of the group. Yeah. And then also another reason would be we want to say something in secret. So for folks who are code switching and getting into their natural tongue or their natural dialect, they're doing it because they're trying to hide whatever they're trying to say. That's why I dropped it into saying that you could share a different language within that context of code switching, but you disagree. You don't see it that way. But people will, because, people will say something and then like whisper something in Spanish. And it's like, you're obviously doing that because you don't want others to interpret, even though you technically don't know who knows Spanish or not around you. So,
I mean, I would call that nefarious acting.
I would say that is a form of code switching in their native tongue. That's how I would
define it. Because you're doing that while you're like around the person that you've already code switched with. So I don't know. I consider that a whole different act.
Interesting.
But
I see that as different action. Because you naturally are a native. If you're a native Spanish speaker, that's your natural state of existence. So anything else is different. So you're always going to come back to your natural state.
Because it's kind of like if I was, and this is a different thing, and I don't know who does it, or people do it. If I'm in a group, I'm talking with people, and there's somebody that's like, if we weren't in this group, we'd be speaking different and say different things. If I was texting them back and forth, things that I'm not saying to the group, I consider that the same thing as speaking Spanish while speaking to an English.
Well, you're trying to hide. You're having a separate conversation.
To me, I don't call it code switching. You're just doing a separate nefarious act.
I mean, I don't love the language nefarious.
That shouldn't be punished, though. It's nefarious,
but how you're saying it, you're labeling it. It seems punitive in nature. So rethink your labels.
I know. I just couldn't come up with something better. Exactly. But I just feel it's appropriate, though.
Hold it back, then. Because it's not nefarious.
But there's something.
Hablas español, speak your Spanish.
But there's something. But it's not about speaking your Spanish. It's that you're saying something that you don't even want to say to the group.
Because
but you have to say it now.
Maybe they don't want to share it with the group. Maybe it's between
me
and me amigos.
Yeah, there's reasons for it. But to me, for that not to be nefarious, I don't know. Like that's different.
Okay, a fifth reason would be it helps us to convey a thought. Certain concepts need that, that that can't come across equally in, say, English or another type of way may come off better in a certain type of colloquialism that's used or expression that's culturally connected. So for sure, like there's patois phrasing that I don't know what the English equivalent is. I just know that in patois. So, you know.
English has a lot of colloquialisms that don't transfer to any other language. It doesn't make sense. Head over heels, that doesn't make any sense.
No. Yeah, no sense.
There's like a ton of sayings. They don't make sense. But so I don't know what you do in that case. When you know in your head, like you understand
what you want to say, you have to say.
Then you got to go back to it. Or you just, in that case, you can't even tell them, right?
Or, you have to just change what you're thinking.
You could have tried to explain it and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense at all.
I don't know what it means, but good job. So I think that what it all comes down to is people try to minimize the stereotypes that a certain group tries to put upon them. So code switching is done really just to prevent limitation, like limits being set on the person that's doing the code switching in any way. So like we already mentioned all the limitations that can be set. Like you could be stereotyped and
absolutely,
or you won't be able to fit in because you're not speaking how everybody else speaks or you don't look how everybody else looks. I think it's all about preventing the limits though. I think that's what code switching gets down to. It's like you prevent people from having control over how you're perceived. So that's what I think it comes down to. But what's your personal narrative with code switching and how has it impacted your life?
So I'm going to get real for, because it's WokeNFree. And I would say I personally try to be my authentic self in all spaces. Sometimes that gets me in trouble because I'm going to be Natasha in all spaces I show up in. And whether Natasha is welcome or not is based on that space. Because I know I'm happy to be me. However, in spaces where where people make it apparent to me that they are Caribbean or Jamaican, all of a sudden my terrible patois comes out because I try to fit in or develop more trust with those people to let them know like, hey, I see you, you see me, like we're here. It doesn't always work. Some Jamaican folks look at me like I'm foolish and crazy, and it is what it is. Some people appreciate it. But what I would say is so much of being Black in America feels performative in nature. And my personal narrative is I feel like in spaces that I show up where I'm one of the only one in my community or one of three, that it seems like I have to have a persona of what I should be anticipated of or what people are willing to receive me as. And so I try to feel like live that truth, that performative act. However, when I'm with more people that share my cultural norms and background, I feel more, it's an easier conversation. It's a different conversation that can be had where it feels a little bit less performative.
So you do reverse code switching. So when you're with more people that are your cultural background, you pretend that this is who you are, like you're about that life.
I present. I don't know, love you and your labels today. I present in a way that I want people to feel comfortable. However, when I'm with people of my community, I feel like I don't have to perform as much. I feel like I can be more innately natural to my cultural identity in a way that doesn't feel comfortable in all spaces, especially where there's not a lot of others that look like me in those spaces.
Well, now you said something completely different, because at first you were talking about when you're with people that will speak the patois.
I will try to do it,
and that to me is a reverse code switching, because it's not like you always are doing that.
So maybe you're not interpreting code switching the same. So code switching is about so you're the one Black person in a room full of Caucasians. You present in a way that is not going to demonstrate more of your cultural identity. And then when you go and speak to Black people, as a fellow Black person, you change your dialect to present that, hey, Black person to Black person, that's what we're doing. And that's exactly what I'm saying. So when I'm not with Jamaican people, I speak one way. And then when I'm with Caribbean people,
here's a question. I'm getting down to something I don't think we talked about. I'm getting down to really just the basics of it, where code switching. So what you're saying is correct.
That's the pathway of it.
But what I'm talking about is, so when you're with people of your culture, that's who you are, is what I'm saying. Not that.
Well, I feel more comfortable to be more Jamaican. I feel more comfortable.
But is that who you are? That's the question.
That's a deeper question that I'm not sure if I'm able to answer at this moment.
Because I think that's like vital to what code switch, because code switching is about.
I would say it is more aligned with when I'm with people of color. It's not reverse. I would say
so you are doing that's more who you are.
I would want to do it. Yeah, I would want.
So even you're more relaxed or something, or you're more comfortable. around
I would
people.
say so because,
okay, all right. So,
because I would
all right,
say,
so I just misinterpreted your first statement.
Okay,
then.
because I would say
seemed
growing
weird.
up in a non-diverse environment, it always seemed like you had to present in a way that was comfortable for the
so
those
that's
others
regular.
in a way where I want to talk about Jamaican food or I want to do this and it didn't feel comfortable to do that in those spaces. Or it felt like I would be judged or people would be like, because people love to make fun of Jamaican people, right? Like and there's a whole ton of jokes and smoking weed and all this stuff. And it's like, no. I'm not a stereotype. That is not my vibe. Like that is, yeah.
Yeah, you're just doing code switching.
Yeah,
okay.
I code switch. I would say that I've been code switching my entire life, and
it
is not clear to me when that will ever end.
That's something.
That's what I feel as a black person in this country. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to do the code switching too, of course, but I guess it would have started in high school because I went to high school that was majority white and there's less minorities there. So that's the thing when I started. I mean, maybe I don't even say when I worked.
Really?
No, I never had a need to. I was always around just people who look like me.
Okay.
So once I was there though, it was just, I was more kind of aware of, I got to be careful what I say. Like I don't want to say certain things that are denigrating to black people, white, like, cause to me, I hate that. That's like the dumbest thing to me. And
it's not helpful.
Yeah, like why are you doing that around them?
Let's not speak poorly about our community.
The problem is then people will see that and they see you as a representative, even though you weren't elected. You were not elected to do it, but that's how they see
outside world.
So I'm always aware, just like, hey, they're gonna see me and think, oh, everybody's like him. So just be aware of what you're saying. So I think that started in high school because I don't even think when I was working, I was still in majority, black people were around and Hispanics. So it wasn't a place where I need to code switch. But I definitely I'm a code switcher. But you know what? So I wanted to make the argument too that I think all people from different cultures code switch if they're working in corporate America, no matter what, because it's kind of like, you don't wear your traditional garb when you go into the office, right? And a lot of people, especially black people, have to change their hair just to be accepted in the office.
Yeah, it is only now
they change themselves to fit
in. With folks feeling more comfortable and protected, that they feel like they can show up with their dashikis and their cornrows. But not all spaces welcome that. Not all industries welcome that still to this day.
And would all industries welcome platform boots that go sky high? They won't let you wear that, right? They're going to say, take those off and wear some appropriate footwear.
Well, are they going to the club? What is there?
No, like to a discotheque.
Okay. You're out of touch. It's 2023. I think you're confused.
I'm just saying you can't do it though. They're going to get mad, and that might be part of your culture is to wear really high shoes and platforms.
Yeah, I mean, you can be a hippie, and that's not welcome either. That's like.
Well, bringing drugs into the office is different, right?
I mean, you're now making assumptions. I was thinking more about the sunflower and the head beaded dress situation going on, not necessarily the psychedelics.
You gotta be very careful.
Yes, drugs are not welcome in the workplace at all.
Follow your employer's workplace
unless you're
rules.
A workplace selling drugs, and then you follow the prescribed rules of your handbook.
Right. I mean, you may be a dispensary, right?
Correct. So that might be a different type of. You may be doing testing of animals or whatever.
You might be the bag man, right?
I don't know what that language is referring to. Now, I'm going to switch this real quick. Should people be code switching, in your opinion?
I mean, just for now, you have to. It's a sad thing to say,
painful.
But hopefully one day it'll be a no. But right now, you can't wear your bonnet or your do-rag to Chick-fil-A, right? You can't do that.
You can, but, Monique might come for you.
And
someone in our own community. That's even more helpful.
That'll either be your last day at the office or you're fired on the spot. And I said office. I mean, I should have said office. It's Chick-fil-A. It's a restaurant. So but
it's a place of business.
But I should have said office. I mean, unless you're the manager, but it's not your office. Either way, it's a restaurant. But but I'm just saying, there's things you have to do it. Like but it's so we got.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's the context that
you don't have to do it. You can do anything you want, but you have to deal with the consequence.
There's a consequence for you demonstrating your culture.
And please don't be surprised by that too. Don't say, "How dare you?
I can't wear." How could you not accept this?
My hair's not ready. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, or I'm working on my waves. Like, mind your business.
You got to keep it laying down. So
keep it nice, keep it tight.
That's the thing, though. You're coming into these places, and they have preconceived conceptions on what it means for you to wear certain things. So I think that's the issue. I mean, you could get in trouble for even just wearing, those shirts that advertise different artists on it, right?
Yeah.
You can have a rock and roll group and maybe that says they're the best band of all time. And what if they get offended by that? But you always wear that around your friends. You all, you like to party and stuff and show who you like. But code switching, you're going to have to do it. I mean, the only way you don't, I guess, is in certain fields and those are opening up. So if you're upcoming singer or musician, then you don't, but do you have to code switch?
Well, the problem, the entertainment industry is very controlled around the types of presentation that their artists form.
But they might want you to only appear one way, right?
Exactly. And so a lot of artists come out at the end of their industry saying, well, they weren't allowed to wear this and they weren't allowed to dress this way and they weren't allowed to speak this way. It seems like there's a lot of control around what is the imagery that is created within those certain spaces.
So maybe something more like if you're Basquiat, something like that.
Excuse you?
if you're a world-renowned artist,
an independent artist. Okay.
When I say artist, I'm talking about I don't know if you're I don't want to say just a painter though. How do you describe an artist who doesn't sing but does all other types of artistry? I don't know what you'd say.
Artist, yeah.
But yes, not one who's a musician,
not a singer, not an entertainment artist, but a media artist.
They have no representation and they'll just do whatever they want.
They do what they want. Well, it's a creative approach to life, right? So,
and then some even I'll say Chance the Rapper, he does all of his own things. Like he produces himself.
Yeah, if you produce your own work,
and he's done really well. He's one of the few people that just do everything they want.
Very admirable work. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a CNBC article that came out earlier this year. It's titled "Experts Say Code Switching Shouldn't Be an Expectation at Work." And I agree with you. I would say currently today, do I think code switching should be done? No, but is it happening? Yes. And as a person who would love to see people be able to show their authentic selves in all spaces, and if you have a hand in being able to form those spaces, then you should put it in materials and create programs, especially for organizations where you invite people to share their truth. And if they want to explain things in English and Spanish, muy bueno. If you want to share your patois or, other dialect language that you have, you should share it and people should welcome it. But people will only feel like this is normalized if you're talking about this, if you are having events or programs and conversations around this. If we don't talk about it, then people make the assumption that who they truly are is not welcome in these spaces. And so it's a matter of kind of removing the curtain and saying, no, when you join this team, this is what it means to be here. And making sure that a part of those conversations include cultural authenticity, identity authenticity, personal authenticity, mental health authenticity, helping people to understand that you can show up to work and you can have a bad day and you can say, you know what, I don't feel like being here. That should be welcome in all spaces. It shouldn't be, this person wants to get fired. That would help with
code switching?
Not just codes. I mean, I think it's a part of the conversation. I think just authenticity on a broadest scale should be spoken to so that people can have a piece of that as the cultural identity, which means that code switching reduces if people feel like they can show up and speak how they want, as opposed to segmenting who they really are to make others supposedly more comfortable. Because for some people, I think people of color would be surprised that some non-diverse people actually would welcome those types of conversations. They would love to learn more Spanish. They would love to have people have more of that cultural dialect going on. I think they would welcome. But
do they want to see somebody wearing their cultural garments, or would that be offensive to them?
It depends. I think you have to have the conversation, though, right? You have to at least, how many organizations to date are even having the conversation? So just note to self, when's the last time we've talked around cultural identity, authenticity?
And cornrows, don't that scare some people? They get.
Are you asking me a real question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking the questions that we're.
I mean, it's a cornrow. It's not
that look like us aren't going to say.
Tears under your left eye.
Oh man, we didn't go to that. I mean, well, tattoos are a little different. I know we talked about it. That's a little different, but. I'm saying, is that okay to wear cornrows and give a big presentation?
My retort to that is it okay to be yourself? If that's who you are, right? And that's your authentic identity, and that's how you feel comfortable. If you're going to present better, I would rather. Some people seem very uncomfortable when they're presenting, and I wonder if it's because they are not feeling like they're culturally accepted in those spaces, and so they're in a button-down suit, and they're like, "Ooh, if I could have my cultural clothing on, I could feel like I could breathe, I can speak a little bit more confident, and they could actually perform better."
So then, even a rougher thing. This is where I don't think it's going to work in all cases. But a good example is with patois. Should you give a presentation in patois to an audience who speaks English?
Well, first of all, Patois is not another language, and secondly, it is a more convoluted way of speaking.
Yeah.
However, if that is your natural tongue, isn't it unnatural to ask somebody to speak in another way?
So,
why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Because I'm just imagining.
You're being a very bad Caribbean person right now.
Because somebody's doing
I would love it.
Someone's
It would be
presenting-
like Oliver giving a presentation.
Someone's presenting to NASA. They're presenting to
You must
the
speak
leaders.
up and speak loud.
They're speaking in broken English to them, and they're like,
if you are born in that land and that is how you sound,
thought we were having a
why
science
would
presentation.
you expect to see? But see how you're thinking through the norms of Western culture.
But I don't even
That
think
is not.
No, you know what? I
because
think it's
guess
wrong.
what? If you were in Jamaica and that is how people would be talking.
So you know
to
what I
though.
say? I say
So-
know your audience because it's kind of like you spoke in such broken English. We didn't really know what you were talking about. So that's why I'd say sometimes you have to do it unless everybody spoke in broken English or understood it. Or if there's a Google translator that says, here's what they actually said, even though they said all this stuff.
So
that is too funny to me.
So if your natural tongue is in Patois,
Which it can be for many.
and you don't want to necessarily change how you speak to for yourself in different spaces, maybe your presentation is like a video of the more normative language that is shared in trainings and whatever, and then you present differently. Maybe you just do summaries or it depends on what makes the person comfortable. There are many people from the Caribbean that do come to the States and they start to change how they sound because they want people to, quote unquote, understand them more.
You said quote unquote because some people have harsh accents.
I just think that we live. Listen, I'm one of the
great.
people who's always like, people gotta speak this way, and I gotta understand. But at the end of the day, we have to stop.
I know, yeah, you like
we
that
have
too.
to stop demanding people not show up as who they are because a lot of us in our community are really struggling with mental health, and a lot of it, I think, is because of this cultural denial stuff and this segmentation of you're not enough and this constant feeling of like you have to change to be good enough for here, and it's like, or maybe here needs to change for us.
I'm just gonna say something controversial just so you know. I have to say it, but broken English is not necessarily the best English, right?
And that's not on the table. I wasn't arguing or supporting that either.
But,
all I'm saying is I'm advocating for cultural identity and authenticity. How that shows up is up to the person.
Should you stick to broken English when you're doing a science presentation?
I mean,
I think people can answer that pretty easy.
You could argue, should it be welcome in a court of law? Should you be giving closing argument in patois?
I agree with that too. Yeah, they're all those.
I just
all
think
cases
that these are
where it's to me
spaces that
unnecessary.
are designed around Western normative
I go even
white
further,
culture,
though.
And then you're trying to apply that
Here's
to a culture that doesn't exist. Because if you were in those lands, same thing. If
I know
you were to go to
you would
Nigeria,
think that's
I don't
okay.
know what they're speaking in the court of law, but maybe it's not English, and somehow people are okay with that.
Well,
right?
now that's a different language is fine, but it's kind of like when you're speaking the language and it's not the full language. Should you change it? That's the question.
I think there's a happy medium that can be established, but I think automatically telling people what you are doing, who you are, is not good enough. It's not an appropriate, long-standing sentiment that will allow for cultural identification, peace, and acceptance. I think changing people to be better for America is not like the norm that is going to make those people of color feel like they're welcome here. You're always going to feel like a visitor. You're always going to feel unwelcome because how you sound isn't even welcome.
I believe in merging cultures, but I think some cultural norms need to die, and that's just how I stand.
Are you coming for patois?
Yeah, of course. And then one of those things, I think that can go away. You don't need that. I'm not coming for a language specific. I'm coming for a language that's spoken incorrectly.
It's a cultural norm, so unfortunately I have to
but I understand. I mean,
I'm
you're
Jamaican,
in it.
I'm
so of course
biased,
you're going to say it. But I'm for cultural melding, and I want like certain aspects of culture to go around.
There's a space for patois.
In your culture melding, you want it to
because by
continue.
Denying it, you're saying that part of my culture is not good enough, and I refuse that. I don't.
Well, I don't judge. I make my judgments differently, so
patois
that's
is
why.
a combination of a lot of different languages that came together, and it is hilarious and amazing and difficult and all the beautifulness that is it. I love to be a part of a culture that has that. And am I saying that all Caribbean and all Jamaican people speak that? No, a lot of Jamaican people. I don't properly speak patois, but I welcome people of my community being able to have that opportunity to do it. And you shouldn't just have to share that with your brethren, that it should be welcome in other spaces.
Okay. Yeah. Agreed to disagree.
Facts.
Here we go. You know what we're doing. We're doing the scenarios. Scenario time. Scenario 1. Veselin had a very tasty fish curry last night with his family. He liked it so much that he wanted to bring it into work. Should he bring his fish curry to work and zap it with the shared microwave at his office?
You're disrespectful. You're so disrespectful.
This is a real scenario.
You're just rude. You're rude and you don't even care, really. I mean, it's just wrong on so many levels.
This is a real question.
I bet it is. I bet it is.
And people should know what we think they should do with this. What we think about it.
So there's a couple of things. First and foremost, I'm glad that... I apologize. Can you reiterate what this person's name is? Veselin?
Yeah.
Veselin is, I'm glad that Veselin enjoyed their fish curry. And, you know, the thing about fish is that this is like leading up to a really bad joke.
The thing about fish, yeah.
The thing about fish is that it's not always welcome in all spaces. And so, for a variety of reasons. And unfortunately, in shared common spaces, specifically, especially with a shared microwave, there can be lingering scents that occur when you warm up a fish dish. This is so messed up. And so... Unfortunately, this has nothing to do with culture. I think this has to do with the palatability of the fish smell, that remnants of it that caused more chaos than it's worth. I would advocate that Veselin not bring it because it's not welcome as from a cultural perspective, but just from a societal norm perspective. In the USA, I can't speak on international warming up etiquette, but I would say in the USA, it seems like people do not appreciate fish regardless of any cultural ties to it, so I would advocate not to bring it.
Unless you work at a fish farm, right?
There you go. So if you are in a space where the whole space smells like fish, nobody cares.
No one would even notice.
But if the space typically does not smell like fish, people are not usually very receptive to that shift in odor. This was such a wild way for me to have to properly respond to that, Khalil.
No, that's really wild.
That was the viral moment of the episode.
Okay.
About warming up fish. You're shameful. That's what you're disrespectful.
No,
you're so disrespectful.
Many people probably have this question.
You're disrespectful.
I know they do. And now you've answered them now. Now they know the answer.
In the most political way possible. I should have gotten an Emmy for that.
Yeah. See, I'm not going to answer it in that kind of way.
I bet
I'm going to answer it in a raunchy way.
Well, you know what? You'll answer in your cultural connective way.
Okay.
There you go.
But mine is mine is just one statement.
Don't answer in Patois.
No, mine is just one statement. It's really straight up. Mm-hmm. And it is, thou shalt not warm up fish at work. That's my thing. It's a cardinal sin.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cardinal sin in our home. I mean, really, you barely tolerate it in our home. So,
oh boy.
Most people are not receptive to fish.
You best light a candle after that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You're bringing some
people
strong smells there, right?
Very upset, irate even with this behavior.
I mean, I think this applies to seafood.
It's so sad though, because people grow up in worlds where that's all
seafood's
they grow
good,
up
right? You all eat is seafood.
So it just seems like cultural, denial of where if that's what makes you feel comfortable to eat. But then here's the counterpoint. Your palate isn't welcome here.
What about people that have sensitive noses? They have no right to be able to breathe fresh air.
It's not one or the other. See how we always go to that space of the accommodation of others. It's not the diminution of others. Like people have to stop coming from that space. No.
What would you do? There's no way around that.
What can happen is maybe you do a fish fry, but it's outside of the building, right? I knew you were going to lose your mind on that one. You are just disrespectful. You're so disrespectful.
Everybody's in building A. Yeah. You're in that shack over there. We built a shack just for you.
What I'm suggesting is there's an excellent fish fry on Fridays.
Yeah, we built a specific shack where you could eat alone and everybody else will eat at the building.
People are welcome to join the shack.
They're welcome, but
it's just outside.
It's outside. There's definitely no sort of air circulation system in there.
Or you provide seafood day, but it's like good. By a caterer, so there's no warming up of anything. It's delivered hot and fresh, and then when it's done, it's an early day. People can cut out, and then you can clean the building or something. Like there's a way to make it work for people. Like
people are going to be happy because there's people that want to eat seafood every day, right?
Well, yeah, that's
and for the sensitive nose people.
Then you have to be careful about your mercury level consumption. So,
but yeah, what if someone doesn't believe in that? Like they're part of their beliefs.
So they don't believe in like science. You're saying?
There's many people though that
that's fascinating. That's a different conversation, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because mercury's real. So
but people might believe
mercury levels increase when you eat certain types of seafood
might believe that
on an ongoing, consistent basis.
But they said we've done this for years and years. We've never had issues.
And so maybe they're filled with mercury.
Yeah, and so they don't care, right? They can glow red.
They might care when they line up on a chart.
But not as long as they can live their life, free and fun.
Even if it's cut by 20 years, yeah.
Well, see that this is a whole other thing you'd have to go into.
That's a whole other thing, yes.
We'll go on to the next one now. Scenario 2. Wyatt was born on the Pacific Ocean on his parents' sea vessel. He spent a majority of his life on the ocean, learning all about the creatures of the sea. His parents decided it was time for him to socialize with more people of his own age, so they were able to enroll him into a high school in Detroit, Michigan. Should Wyatt code switch to fit in with his peers?
Okay, so in the ocean, not on the ocean, and then secondly, code switch.
He wasn't born in the ocean.
Oh, I mean, I guess it just sounds weird on the ocean. It just sounds weird to me, but
yeah, he wasn't born in the ocean. That would be really cool, though.
Code switching from
because he went from a sea life to now life in Detroit, Michigan.
You're taking that term and you're really expanding the application here.
No, but we can only imagine who was born on the sea, right? We can only imagine what kind of personality.
Aquaman.
You're thinking born in the sea again. That's different. He's born in the ocean, Aquaman, not on the ocean.
Okay. Well, I think in the film, technically, was he in the ocean when he was born? I can't remember.
But that's the film. The comics might be different. He might have been born inside of a clam, right? We don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the comics.
Sir.
I don't know enough about Aquaman.
Okay. Shout out to Aquaman. I would say, so you're suggesting, going from being all about the ocean to being this land person.
But specifically in the urban schools of Detroit, Michigan.
I know. I love that you went very specific there too. That's very interesting.
That's what the scenario calls for.
On your level of disrespect, I see.
That's disrespectful? To be very specific? I'm not saying anything bad or good.
With the ocean and the fish and the...
I know, it just followed. It just made sense.
I would say... he most likely will code switch in the language and the topics of choice amongst the land dwellers in Detroit, Michigan. But should he is the question. Again, but it depends on the consequence. So if you want more acceptance, most likely the answer is yes. But if you want more cultural identity and authenticity, then the answer would be no. So it's going to be based on Wyatt's comfortability of being more integrated with his new environment.
Yeah, should he? I would say he should do it. What I want him to do is not do it, because I just think that's hilarious for him to be talking about the ocean to people that have no idea what the ocean is. I mean, that'd just be funny to me.
Sir.
Because they're not used to sea life.
They don't share the narrative of living in the sea. To say they don't know about the ocean is
they know it's made of salt water. They know that.
Wildly disrespectful.
All right, but I'm just saying, but the thing is, if I was in Wyatt's shoes, I would actually code switch because it would just be easier, but it would actually be better for him not to, because see, that's how we lead to people learning new things.
Yeah, so I would say, my 18-year-old self would agree. I would say, yep, code switch, and my 37-year-old self would say, no, do you, boo, even if it means not having friends, because it is better to be
people might laugh at him,
Then, I bet they will. But it is better to be yourself and not question who you really are if you're constantly presenting and performing as something that is not you.
Yeah, that's true. Scenario 3. Sophina has been the captain of her water polo team for all of her years at one of the most prestigious high schools in the nation. She was recently invited to speak to a group of urban youth about balancing sports with academics. Should she code switch to more closely resonate with the group she is speaking to?
Interesting. Being urban is the switcher here of what you're
her high school wasn't urban at all. It was
okay.
If it's not clear, they had water polo there.
You're being disrespectful.
So you name an urban school that has water polo.
I have not done the educational research.
I would like to see it. The WokeNFree Nation can show me that. I want to see one that does that. It's
possible. Who knows? So I would say that when speaking to youth, it is important to use language that resonates with that community so that they pay more attention, because as we know, people's attention span is reducing as we speak. So the more, especially with the youth, if you really want to captivate them, you need to speak in their language. And technically, I guess that would constitute as code switching. And so to be more effective in the speech, yes. But again, if that causes internal conflict or if that causes identity questioning for oneself, then no. But if you want to be heard by a specific group of people, it may be more effective for you to do it.
And for me, and when I think about it too much, I say it's a resounding no. Only because sometimes people try to, so this is almost like a reverse code switching. So normally she speaks a certain way to her peers, but now she's around a new group and she's trying to speak like them. You gotta be very careful because you could be offensive really quickly.
True.
So I would say don't code switch, just speak how you speak. And then, I mean, maybe since they're younger though, we don't have to use words that they probably haven't heard before. That's what I'd say. But I don't think you should all out go to like, all right, let me try to speak in their lingo. Let me not try to use all those things.
My answer is only do it if you're comfortable. Yeah, I would hate, because I've seen that too. People try to say other words because they're speaking to a specific audience, but if that's not your natural flow of language, then you come off as very disingenuous and very offensive really quickly. So so don't drop words and try to nay if you don't know what that means.
You start doing that
and you're doing the Superman and it's getting weird and it's it's going to get really weird really quickly. It's
going to be awkward for everybody.
Yeah, and unless that's the impression you're trying to be.
I mean, we're talking about some academics
so
too,
it seems like this would be,
I don't know how that came into it. Yeah, that's different.
Dance is always involved in all things.
Wow, all right. I mean, hey, careful. People will think that's the stereotype, right?
For being black?
Yeah. You guys are always dancing. That's all you guys do.
Well, so just to clarify, dance is always a part of my life because I love the expression of dance. But do all black people dance? No. Is dance a normative part of our culture and how we express ourselves? It is welcomed, is what I would say. Typically, it's welcomed in our culture. But yes, we should not assume that people of color always want to dance in all circumstances. That is
time to dance.
Yeah, it is not time to dance. It is only time to dance if that is what your vibe is. Like my vibe is to always dance, not because I'm black, but because I'm Natasha.
Yeah, so that it could be for a different reason. That's what's so hard too, right?
Unfortunately, to your point though, society, I worry about that because I can't walk without dancing. You know that I can't even drive my car without dancing. But I know that I feel that people are.
That's a black person there.
Like that's a black person. Instead of saying, black. Hey, that's a girl with beautiful hair who loves to dance, right? Like, unfortunately, that is the society we're living in. And
that's messed up. You can't
I shouldn't have to explain that. Like, hey, I'm dancing because I like to dance, not because I'm Jamaican. Like, there's a difference. And it's okay if I wanted to do it because of my culture. And it's okay if I want to do it because it's me. This is why this topic is a little bit, I think, frustrating to discuss from our perspective, and then also maybe frustrating to think through how.
Oh, you think it's frustrating?
Well, because it's because it comes down to like what you're saying. It's like this interpretive, like who you are. You're race first instead of person first in our society, and that is challenging because I want to show up in spaces and I want to be Natasha first, black Jamaican, a woman second, third, but I don't. I come into this world as black woman, not even Jamaica, right? But black woman first and maybe Natasha third. And then that's what's problematic because I'm not showing up. I'm not even being received in the way that I'm presenting.
Yeah.
And it's like, so how do we eradicate that? Like you're saying, we have to move to a society where race is no longer the focal point because you can't be anchoring things around something that is either irrelevant or doesn't exist.
Yeah, well,
I know, and then that's
we choose to make it exist, right? It doesn't exist, but we create it as
an institution where things are anchored to it.
Yeah, to something that's completely fictional and actually non-beneficial. It's
a lot.
How we've done
I
this
feel
humans.
Quite irate. I was hoping to feel more relaxed, and I feel more anxious.
Ouch. Well, I mean, this topic lends to that, right?
It does.
This doesn't lend to
this
positivity because you're actually talking about a real situation that is not necessarily good.
It's not pleasant. No.
Yeah, this is not like.
I guess so.
Code switching isn't good. It shouldn't happen, right? It should be something that could be eradicated.
It's kind of like a coping mechanism for people of color and like diverse audiences. Actually, it seems like.
Yeah, it's how you like assimilate. Yeah, if you didn't do it, then you couldn't assimilate. But I mean, some would argue you shouldn't. I mean,
that's a whole other. But it's great. This is lending for. So we expect to hear from y'all. Put your thoughts in the comments because we are at that time again. It's coming to the end of our 320th episode of Woke and Free! Quite the episode discussing code switching. Title, Let's Talk About Code Switching. We want to hear about your connection to this as well. In the comments, please do so. Khalil, what do folks need to do now?
Come back next week for the new Woke and Free Wednesday episode. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for Woke and Free Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you would like to share a topic for an upcoming episode, as you can see, we hit all the hard things all the time, along with the fun and the interesting and the intriguing. So lots to discuss. Best place to share your thoughts with us is on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That is WokenFree.com. And on social, again, beautiful, engaging, wonderful content to be viewed and to be discussed and to be shared on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And all sponsorship and collaboration queries, best place to reach us is our Contact Us page at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for Woke and Free Wednesdays. Remember, Woke and Free is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Till next time.